The Great Pumpkin Puzzle. Story and song by Jim Cullinane. Read by Joseph Allert. Chapter 2. The Garden Pest. A few days later, Vince was out watering his garden when he saw some of the flowers had dropped off and baby pumpkins were starting to grow. He was so happy he danced a little jig as Lydia passed by. "Look, Lydia, I finally got some pumpkins for the competition," he whooped.
"Really?"
said Lydia, sounding surprised.
"Well, good luck, Vincent. May the best gardener win."
Later that night, Vince was sound asleep in his hammock when he was woken up by a buzzing sound. Thinking it was a fly, he swiped his hand and knocked poor Bridget sideways. "Oh, I'm sorry, little bumblebee," said Vince. Then Bridget did the strangest thing. She began buzzing in circles around Vince, as if she wanted him to follow her. So he did. In the pale moonlight, Vince tiptoed towards his garden behind Bridget. As they got nearer, Vince spied the dark shape of someone standing in his pumpkin patch. "Hey!" he shouted. "What are you doing?" The figure jumped.
"It's only me,"
said a rather startled-looking Lydia.
"You gave me a fright."
Vince saw a small clay jar in Lydia's hands. "What's that?" he asked.
These are just some slugs I found," said Lydia quickly. Luckily for you, I couldn't sleep. I came to check on your pumpkins and caught these little blighters just in time."
The black slugs wriggled and writhed in the jar like squirmy little snakes. Vince scratched his head. "Gosh, I didn't know my garden had so many slugs. Thanks for catching them in time before they ruined my pumpkins." Lydia smiled sweetly.
"Well, what are friends and neighbors for? Anyway, now my good work is done here. I must be off."
Bridget landed on Vince's shoulder and raised her little leg, pointing it towards Lydia as she walked away. The next morning, Vince had a phone call from Lydia.
"Good morning, Vincent. I think you should buy me lunch for saving your pumpkins last night. See you at 1 o'clock at the Swallow Cafe."
Vince smiled to himself. Finally, some nice pumpkins on the way, and now a lunch date with the lovely Lydia. This was his lucky day. Since he had been spreading stinky compost in his garden, he showered and arrived early at the cafe. Meanwhile, Lydia had other plans. With Vince out of the way, she sneaked into his garden, looking around to check if anyone was watching. She took out a small glass bottle with a big skull and crossbones on the front. She popped the cork and filled a glass dropper with the potent poison. Bending over towards the middle of Vincent's pumpkin plant, she was just about to squeeze the poison out when she heard a faint buzzing sound. Lydia quickly turned round and saw Bridget flying straight towards her bottom. She tried to shoo away the brave little bumblebee, but it was too late. Bridget found her target and stung Lydia right on her bum. She hollered. Well, you could have heard her scream all across town, and Vince did. He came running back to find Lydia hobbling out of his garden, clutching her rather battered behind.
"Your bumblebee attacked me!" she shrieked.
Vince was confused. "She's not my bumblebee. And what were you doing in my garden anyway? I thought we were meeting for lunch."
I was just passing by, and I saw a large crow pecking your pumpkins," fibbed Lydia. "As I was shooing it away, your vicious bumbling bee stung me on my dainty derriere. Some thanks I get for trying to help," sobbed Lydia as she wobbled off down the street.